Noah's circular segment may be a story of divine judgment and salvation. God, lamented by humanity's evil, chooses to cleanse the soil with a disastrous surge, but he finds favor in Noah, who's an equitable man, and tells him to construct an ark. Noah is told to assemble his family and 2 of each creature species to protect life. As the surge waters cover the soil, pulverizing all other life, Noah's ark remains secure after the waters retreat. Noah's family and the creatures landed to repopulate the soil. This was the scriptural surge, but numerous societies have their claimed surge stories. Here are the most out of control, either genuine or envisioned European end times. It was a terrible time to be in North America and Europe. Amid the conclusion of the final ice age in North America, the Laurentide ice sheet extended all over all of Canada and into northern USA. It was 2 meters tall in northern Europe. The Scandinavian ice sheet extended all over Scandinavia, most of the UK, Germany, and Poland additionally towered about 2 miles tall, but not for long. They were dissolving catastrophically, dissolving for thousands of a long time, from around 17,000 a long time back to around 8,000 years ago. They bed out, ocean levels rose 400 feet, dividers of water scoured scenes, making canyons and in some cases nearly overnight whole species went terminated. It was chaos and individuals were there to witness it. Let's begin in Europe, especially around the Dark Ocean locale amid the final ice age. The Dark Ocean was a freshwater lake closed off from the salty water of the Mediterranean, since of the Bosporus Strait from the strip of water presently interfacing the Dark Ocean, affectionate ocean, through Istanbul, didn't exist. It was a strip of arrive, but as ocean levels rose, the Bosporus was breached and water overflowed into the Dark Lake. At that point, I figure you may call it inundating. It was salt water and wreaking devastation. Inquirer has proposed that this disastrous occasion drove major social changes over Europe. It stamped the move from the Mesolithic period of hunter-gatherers to the Neolithic time when individuals began cultivating and making earthenware. The rise and ocean levels led to the misfortune of almost 28,000 square miles of arrive and uprooted conceivably 145,000 individuals. This uprooting likely constrained agrarian communities from Southeast Europe to move westbound, spreading farming techniques in earthenware generation over the landmass as they did. Teacher Chris Turney at the College of Exeter, the lead creator of One of the Things About, proposes that this period of change might have felt like an around-the-world surge, to those influenced conceivably giving rise to Noah's circular segment story. Viking blood surge. One culture that meandered around the Dark Ocean additionally had a surge myth. Were the Vikings? It's called the story of Bergelmer, and in ordinary Viking design, it's very brutal. Bergelmer was an ice mammoth, or Jotun and Norse, who survived a disastrous downpour. Presently it was no typical downpour. Let's be clear, it was a literal flood of blood within the most fabulous portion of the myth, Bergelmer and his spouse. As it were survivors of a gigantic rough result of the ice pants by the divine beings, who weren't happy with how the monsters were living as the blood from the killed mammoths streamed freely, creating an endless overpowering surge that immersed the world. Bergelmer and his spouse got away from the dangerous, ridiculous surge by finding asylum on a hollowed-out tree trunk, the scent utilizing it as a watercraft. They float on this primordial ocean of blood. The survivors and after that go on to repopulate their race of ice monsters. The American end of the world over in North America, the Laurentide ice sheet, and its smaller neighbor to the west. The Cordilleran ice sheet began softening at some point between 14,000 and 11,000 a long time back, all hell broke free in what's presently called the Northwest joining together states and Canada. All that ice was holding back an antiquated lake named Lake Missoula until it wasn't when the ice sheet broke down, that the waters of Lake Missoula smashed southwards into what's presently Washington State in northern Oregon. The sum of water discharged from the lake alone is thought to have been as much as 2,500 cubic kilometers. Presently, for those of you not so metrically slanted myself, included, that's around as much water as all the water in Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. The water from these surges come to speeds of up to 50 miles per hour, carrying massive boulders and ice sheets in conjunction with it, so no doubt no surfing. The surges carved out the interesting scene of what's called the Channel Scablands, and they did it quickly. The correct sum of time it took is hard to determine accurately, but geologists think it all seems to have happened in a matter of weeks or months. The effective surges carved out profound channels or coulees and cleared out behind highlights, just like the Dry Falls, which would have been one of the biggest waterfalls in the world. At the time, these falls are approximately 3.5 miles wide and 4,000 feet tall. Overshadow Niagara Falls. As a update, don't go chasing waterfalls. In case there were individuals within the region, they would have seen a scene changing before their eyes, an occasion so cataclysmic that it would have been past anything experienced in human history. Think around that, a tremendous divider of water, filled with chunks of ice and boulders, tearing through the scene and reshaping the soil. But you know what there really might have been? Individuals. Their local American surge myths, and there was people evidence growing that individuals came to North America distant prior than we thought, and possibly not using the Bering Arrive Bridge, the conventional hypothesis that's been so prevalent for so long. Charcoal and bone from the archaeological location at Cooper's Reasonable in western Idaho, not as well distant from the Channel Scablands, has been dated to around 16,000, a long time ancient, to when the uncovering strait was bolted up in as well much ice for anybody to pass through it. Fossilized footprints in White Sands National Stop in unused Mexico have been dated to nearly 20,000, a long time. Sometime recently show the elective boats hopping along the coast, and after that heading inland. It implies that there's a genuine plausibility that people were around within the locale when all this chaos was occurring, and there were local American flood myths. It might be fair to follow what happened back at that point, not myths truly, but histories hidden as myths of predecessors of the Salish, a gather of distinctive tribes associated through the Salish dialect, who lived within the zone around Cooper's ship for centuries, may have seen the occasion. The Sinkayak, a Salish-speaking tribe like many other Native American tribes, has a surge myth, and it goes like this. There was a time when overpopulation was driving clashes over nectar regions. Seniors began having recurring dreams around a disastrous surge that would without a doubt suffocate everybody concerned. The seniors assembled in a chamber to talk about their dreams. They had chosen to construct a gigantic pontoon by lashing together cedar bolt canoes with solid cedar bark ropes. Currently, whereas a few individuals accepted the older folks and worked hard on a pontoon, others sneered at the thought. I've never sneered. The flatboat was secured to Mount Sinai with a mammoth cedar bark rope, through a huge stone, and was completed after a few months. Months in the blink of an eye after the underneath came and everything overflowed as the waters of Rose, indeed Mount Sinai, were submerged. Those who had warmed the notices took a shield on the flatboat with sufficient nourishment, whereas their incredulity in partners confronted a floods, resulting in the survivors living on the pontoon for numerous days. As it were by water persevering this difficulty and supplicating to offer assistance, the surge waters started to retreat. The flatboat, inevitably grounded at the best of Mount Sinai, was held safely by the stone anchor. The waters kept on retreat, uncovering a crushed scene. Everything was annihilated, but the few survivors were overseen to return to the arrive and modify society. Even though over time the populace developed once more and clashes re-emerged, it appears history tends to rehash itself. Babylonian surges. 3 Old Mesopotamian surge stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Sumerian time beginning, and the Akkadian Atrahasis, all tell stories that are surprisingly comparative to each other and originate before the scriptural Noah's Bend surge story, by centuries dating back to between 2000 and 1000 BC. There was a shared surge that interfaced them. We do not know, but a few hypothesize that there seems to have been a return to the disastrous worldwide ocean level rise that happened after the final ice age. On the other hand, the Tigris and Euphrates streams are inclined to flooding and have been for centuries within the Epic of Gilgamesh, likely the foremost nitty-gritty account of the most punctually composed story. However, Gihon Pishin is cautioned of an approaching surge in a dream. Gihon Pishin is educated to construct an ark, but with a turn, he must hoodwink his townspeople. He tells them he's built the ark since he fell out of favor with the god Enlil. Whereas in reality, it's a divine command to outlive the coming downpour. The Epic of Gilgamesh goes into apart detail, approximately the determinations of Noah's Ark. It has 7 levels, and its 3D shape that builds a vessel formed like a 3D shape of extraterrestrial life. No, not going to go there. A few have conjectured that the 3D shape is typically noteworthy in a few antiquated societies. Geometric shapes were associated to cosmology, a 3D shape with its rise to sides and symmetry might speak to the concordance and adjust of the universe over the soil. The cub's break, even with sides and points, may also symbolize flawlessness, solidity, and adjusted qualities. It might seem beautiful to engage in the confrontation of a chaotic and dangerous surge, but Muslim floods. Another structure is the Kaaba in Mecca. As I've said, let's get into the Muslim surge story. It's worth noting that sometime recently, as of late, Mecca was hit with a lovely, strong surge that caused a great deal of harm, even though nothing to the point where individuals were building vessels and having to restart civilization from close collapse within the Quran. Noah is venerated as one of the prophets sent by Allah to direct humankind. His story is told in several chapters, or surahs, throughout the Quran. In these entries, he tells Noah to construct an ark. This circular segment was to serve as a means of salvation for those who accepted the new message and were willing to take after him. Allah, educating Noah to require onboard sets of each species of creature and his family, but for those who had rejected confidence, that incorporates one of his children who denied to board the ark. The Quran describes how and when the time appointed by Allah arrived, the earth's ovens burst forth with water, the gates of heaven were open, and a massive flood engulfed the land. The flood waters inundated the entire earth, wiping out everyone who had rejected Noah's message. In the ark, Noah, his family, and the pairs of animals were able to navigate the ways of the flood and allow his family and the animals to repopulate the earth. How can floods wipe out civilizations? There are civilizations and hundreds of flood stories told by different cultures all around the world. Why surges are destroying and they happen a parcel in China. The Yellow and Yang rivers surge frequently, two surges, one in 1887 and one in 1931, collectively claiming the lives of as numerous as 6 million individuals in India. The Ganges and the Indus streams have overwhelmed over and over once more, wiping out civilizations just like the Harappa a few 3,000 a long time prior. Australian Aboriginals have their claim surge stories, one of which dates back over 7,000 a long time, suspiciously near to when all that ice liquefied into the ocean. It's a captivating thing that so numerous people have told so numerous surge stories over a long time. Are they all connected to the conclusion of the last ice age? Most likely not. Again, flooding. After the surge has tormented humankind over the centuries and seas are rising once more, let's see what the other chapter brings. Do you have any other flood stories you want to share? Or if we missed any, leave them in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more mysterious histories.